On this episode of AV Week, we talk about drones and the FAA, what that means for integrators, how content creation can help your firm get more customers, plus what do you need to know when hiring a live staging and events company. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AV Week is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like HD Base T. This is AV Week, episode 252, recorded Friday, June 24th, 2016. The FAA and drones.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
AV Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you are listening or watching this podcast. If you're watching it live, happening on Friday afternoon, the 24th of June. Welcome. Hope you have a very wonderful weekend. If you're in the Midwest, get ready to sweat. With us this week is my buddy pal, left side of my brain, and all-around good guy, Mr. George Tucker. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Also with us is Christopher Nedo from AV Help Desk. Hello, sir.
How are you, sir? How you doing?
Doing good. If you're watching the video, Chris is in a confinement zone. He's in a.
I can't tell you where I am.
Exactly.
Kind of top secret.
Government protection. So.
Absolutely, a lot of that.
Last but not least, newbie here, so be nice to him, gentlemen. His name is Jay Myers. He's from Innovative Solutions Incorporated. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dan.
Absolutely. A couple things real quick, guys, before we get started. One thing, a couple things have been happening news-wise and crazy stuff. The UK just said they didn't want to be part of EU anymore, and, the government in the US is saying weird things about net neutrality, and the courts are saying weird things about net neutrality as well as Rule 41. If you go to our website, AVNation.tv, Josh Schrago and actually Bradford Bennett have written some really interesting things on both of those two things. Nothing to do with the EU, but the net neutrality thing and the Rule 41, so check that out. Our buddies over at Commercial Integrator have released the 40 under 40 application process. Is that right, Chris?
That's right.
All right, so if you are under 40 or you know someone under 40, hook them up with an award. None of us are eligible anymore. Just want to put that out there. Tucker's really not eligible. So
Nope.
This is...
he's very not eligible.
He's very not eligible. And the last thing is a company called...
I prefer extraordinarily not.
called...
Hey, Tim, I'm going to go for the top 60 under 60.
There we go. See... there's an organization called Installate, and they do a thing called the Installation Awards over in the UK. And some really good buddies that we met actually at ISE this year, our friends over at How to AV, got an award. Underwriter of AVNation, Byamp, got a Hall of Fame award. Kevin McLaughlin, one of his team, got an award. So if you're on the Twitters, look up hashtag Install Awards, and you'll find all sorts of really cool people. I wish we could do something like this in the States. The folks in the UK, they do award ceremonies right. They've got one. Our friends over at AV Magazine do an award ceremony in September. I just want to see Tucker in a tux. That's my bottom line. So
I own one.
And top hat.
And top hat, yes. So, all right, let's get the stories going on the road. I mentioned the government, and God love them. The U.S. is, we're wherever the heck we're doing. One thing that's happened this week, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has released, they and the DOT are finalizing the rules for small unmanned aircraft systems. If you're not familiar with that terminology, it's a fancy-smancy way of saying drones. So let's just say drones from now on. This happened earlier this week, June 21st. Today, the Department of Transportation and FAA has finalized the first operational rules for routine commercial use of small unmanned aircraft systems. UAS, or drones, on opening pathways towards fully integrating drones into the nation's airspace. These new regulations work to harness new innovations safely to spur job growth, advance critical science research, and save lives. Not sure I believe everything from that press release, but Mr. Tucker, we're going to start with you. 1 year ago, Infocom, the organization, released to us saying that drones are part of AV. We've debated this back and forth for over 12 months now. I think Mike Blackman from ISC has finally convinced me that, we're there, right? I can see some use cases. Stampede has had 2 pavilions now in the States. They had a pavilion at ISC demonstrating drones and how drones work in AV. What does this do for the folks in the U.S. and the U.S. market and the U.S. integrator to have the government saying, here's some rules, here's some regulations now go innovate?
I'm still not sold that they're part of AV, despite what you just said. In what case scenario are they AV beyond survey?
Yeah.
Now, because you're not going to replace the guide wire stuff, say in the NFL or for footy,
no.
because they're going to fall out, and you're not going to replace crane cameras because Lord knows we've talked about how many times Julio Iglesias got cut and almost lost thumbs because he grabbed one when it was hovering near him. These things are not light puppies either. So the camera alone that they sometimes carry for HD is, if it falls out of the sky, you're hurting people. So I still don't see a case scenario. Although there is one that there's a guy though, Kim Burgess, I believe, he's from New Zealand. She sent me an article about how they're using it for like sort of the mesh networking, and the guys that do the sort of the hive thought. The
hive thought. With the LED lights
on them. Yeah, and doing projection systems. Interesting, novel. I don't know if I'm sold. Back to your question, though, what does this mean for the U.S.? It means that we're going to have to get permits for it. And it means that, yes, you'll be able to use them, and we'll probably find use cases that fit, but I just don't see the function of them. They're not a microphone cable. They're not a new array mic. They're not real use case that's going to be worth everything we've talked about.
All right.
I just don't.
Mr. Netto, where do you come down on this?
Drones, what?
Jeez. All right.
I mean, seriously, dude. I've given it a shot. I've tried. I've beaten the dead horse. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm feeling kind of, depressed about the fact that we're talking about it. I'm kidding. Drones have a purpose in other applications. I see it on TV with the geospatial stuff or whatever they're doing with land surveying. It's great for search and rescue. It's great for all those things. I think there is a home for drones. I just don't find it in the corporate setting, which is where I work, doing AV. Maybe on the live events and staging, type stuff. There's some small applications. Definitely on the broadcast side, replacing, the big sweeping shots with these little, with the flying drones and the camera attached to it. They're there. But with this, when you start getting the rules and regulations put in, change the operation of how these things are being done. It's not your average Joe now that's going to have these things. People for last year or so, I started seeing and hearing about people with drone pilot, business cards. That's great. Now go get a license, dude. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to fly that drone through my house or through my windows. So now you're regulating it. You're requiring the license and insurance and all that. Yes, it's a much safer thing. And there's been some close calls with drones, as far as accidents and, things going horribly wrong. You're right, George. These things are not light. They do kick up a lot of wind. They've taken Enrique Iglesias' fingers almost off. God, that guy's a national treasure in wherever he's from, Puerto Rico. I mean, please, I'm sure Univision is going nuts that they almost lost Enrique Iglesias, but besides the point, you're putting the regulations into it. I think it's a good thing. You need to be experienced. These are not your kids' RC planes. Let's separate that. These are not toys. And I think for a lot of us in the AV side, we've always looked at them as, these are great. They sell them at 7-Eleven on the corner. Those are different types of drones than these things. The things that Stampede is carrying are not small by any means. These are These are things that if they fall out of the sky, they're going to hurt you. Not T1, Terminator type stuff, but it'll put a dent in you.
All right, Jay, you got the last word on this. Where do you stand on whether or not whether it's the regulation here, or the conversation has turned now to whether or not drones are viable in AV?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with these guys, Chris and George. I mean, particularly George, talking about the practical side of it. I mean, yeah, where do you use this? It seems like a sizzle factor if you want to bring somebody into your booth at Infocom, that you sell drones and things. But the reality that when I was thinking through it is application-wise, where you might be able to use it. And Chris was saying something about surveys. I'm thinking real estate people that, some big-time, estate sales, with big, half-acre, 2 5-acre lots kind of thing where you can fly this thing over and really, and maybe you somehow backhaul that video image into something you're presenting, back at their office or something. But for the day-to-day, an AV integration and everything that we all do, I think it's cool. I love walking up and seeing them in a booth, but I don't know that I'm going to be building a business plan around, deploying those devices. And the other part of it is when the government gets in the middle of that, wow, I'm an entrepreneur and regulatory and all that stuff with the government sticking their nose and doing all those kind of things in there. Although I do think it is necessary with drones, that's just kind of like, yet another reason to kind of maybe, to Chris's point, maybe shy away from it. And, again, look at it in a trade show. And, as a technology person, I appreciate it. I hope they keep enhancing them, but I'm not sure we're going to be deploying any of them for our customers anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. Yes, sir.
Just to wrap this up, we're 4 integrators here, or 4 former integrators here. We're only seeing what we know of these things. There are drone people and drone experts out there who can come in here and sing to you the praises of what drones can do that we don't know. But specifically, if you're tough application sell for us, when you go to the Infocoms and you see them floating around in their cage, that's great. But no other piece of hardware we have is floating around in the cage. So, you're right. It's a sizzle. It's a hot piece of technology. If you take that in comparison to some other types of technology that are starting to peek through at Infocom, the VR applications, with people with the glasses and people walking around on treadmill type things, and that may lean more towards what we do than the drone. I see the drone as an accessory to something that people need, but there's definitely a whole segment of people that can speak about the benefits of drones and what they can do in other areas better than we can.
Hey, Tim, just one quick aside on that to kind of follow up on Chris's remarks. It just whatever it's worth, and not to beat this to death there, but my son mentioned that he was at a wedding outside of Chicago, I think it was last week, and they had a drone flying over the wedding. It was Indian wedding, and they had the dancing and all of outfits and everything, and he said it was very cool. So maybe if you're an event, planner and a wedding, that may be highly appropriate. And I think Chris is right. We're all kind of limited about what we know in our world kind of thing and what we get looking out there. But I think there's a whole group of people out there that are focused on applications and, maybe making this more mainstream.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's move on to our next story here. It's from two buddies. One is the folks over at Commercial Integrator, and by way of our good friend, our new friend, Mr. Noble Crawford, who we were able to meet in person at Infocom this year. Noble talks about 3 ways AV integrators can increase sales using digital content. Quote unquote, digital content can be defined as online content, blogs, video, images, audio, infographics, etc., all of which are instrumental in helping to increase sales revenues in today's marketplace. Jay, I actually want to start with you on this one because you're an entrepreneur and because you got your own company here. How, besides some of the ways that Noble has mentioned here, how can integrators, how can people who are trying to get their name out, whether it's an individual or it's a company, use things like digital content to engage an audience and, bottom line, drive sales?
Well, I appreciate it, Tim. We've put a lot of effort in this area because, like a lot of integrators out there, we've been struggling to try to grow the business over the last several years. and we're in the Southeast, Interactive Solutions. We're based in Memphis, and so newsflash, it's not the middle of the Silicon Valley, so we don't have a lot of opportunity. We got to drive a long way to find a prospect, but I think one of the ways we've been able to uncover more, frankly, is that we invested in a social media support person who also helped us with revamping our website, putting videos on there, putting a lot better and more discernible content. I definitely can tell you that over the last year and a half or so in particular that we have increased sales, particularly uncovered new prospects because we have been very active on social media and revamped the website and done those kind of things that and the thing about it is, I guess I just on a point of that, when you're doing these kind of things, it's great to say digital marketing, go do your website, go whatever social media. I think there's another aspect of it, which is you've got to provide good content, but you've got to be consistent. You can't go dump a bunch of stuff in there 1 month and then ignore it for 3. It's not going to work. And I think that the continuum of our effort and trying to look, frankly, more than AV integrators, we want to really look more like technologists. And so we want to be out there kind of talking about, other technologies, and Chris pointing out about drones or whatever else that's out there. It's not like we're going to be selling all this stuff to people, but we want them to be aware of the fact we know about that kind of stuff. And many times integrators struggle to monetize this whole thing with social media in particular. And I'll say it again, that we can give you data to support the fact that we've been able to sell more stuff.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you have to monetize it? I mean, do you have to monetize? When I say that, meaning, do you have to make money off Twitter specifically, or social media specifically, or can you hook that into just marketing efforts in general?
Well, I think you can hook it into marketing efforts in general, but I think that one of the big bugaboos against social media, at least in the industry that I've heard of the past, is like, it's cool, it's neat, you expose whatever. But there's you don't really get anything out of it. It's all fluff. And what I'm trying to talk about here at this point is for us. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also the owner and the bottom line guy, and I'm going to spend money to support this. What are we getting out of it? And we've actually had some really some nice new things. Not dramatic, Tim, but some. And then the other part of it is our customers and our prospects. It's an expectation thing. If you're a technology company, how come you're not on social media?
Bingo.
They would laugh you. They'd laugh you off the opportunity or whatever. So that's another reason why we do it. Expectations from our customers and prospects.
All right, Mr. Tucker, go ahead and go.
So I think Jay hit on a really good couple of points here. One, that you have to be engaged in social media, and you have to be going after people that are not just your end clients, right? You're going after the architects. You're going after communities who are interior designers. You're going after the people who own those homes or are into those things and watch HGTV. That's where you get your client base from. Even if it's word of mouth, that becomes sort of a building block. And Jay mentioned that you have to keep consistent, that you can't just put it out there and leave them, stagnating for 2-3 months. It's sort of like rotating the stock on shelves, right? You need to do that. And you need to be able to engage with that all the time. But something else Jay brought up, which I think is really important, and it's something that we are seeing in our industry as a change. Jay said we are technologists. That's different from being an integrator or an installer. We're being seen sometimes in the same level as the guys who do the TV shows or the ones who manufacture the products. They want to know from us that we understand its application. Even if it's a minute video saying, here's why this new technology is important or this new device. Here's why we install it the way we do. It's even so much as saying, hey, we use specialized Wi-Fi. Why? Because it does this for you. That's, I think, the real turning point there, is that this digital engagement, beyond being your new slate and beyond being your new way of reaching out, it is reframing who we are to the end client. And that's really important because that's what they're looking for. We're at, as integrators, where the manufacturers were, say, 8 years ago. They were saying, why? Okay, I don't get it. Oh, now I see.
All right, Mr. Netto, and I saved Chris for last because he is kind of our social media guru and guerrilla marketer for AVNation. How do people do this? How do integrators tack onto this?
Well, it's a resource that's out there, and it's up to the integrators to decide whether they want to do it or not, what they are missing. Okay, if you go to the recent One of the sites that I go to is AKA TV. AKA TV's put out there. It's a sister site for Daily Doe, for our friends over in Europe, Daily Doe. They are measuring just Twitter hashtag metrics, okay? And to see the numbers that came out of Infocom, for example. Now, that is a show, right? But it's only over a course of 4 days, right? You're getting millions of hits, okay? I myself looked at that. I had 3 million impressions just by me alone off of what I was doing. In comparison to some large companies, I was coming in right in there with the big boys of our industry.
Well, you were a top 10, dude.
I was top. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely up there. And what does that do? People are watching, people are listening, and people are paying attention to this. It's not just from a sales perspective. Yes, you can blanket. You want to compare it to something. Try throwing. Once you have that big network, try throwing. Get on a plane with a whole bunch of flyers about your company and dump them over a city. That's carpet bombing, basically, of social media. The thing is, the people that are picking up those things and reading it is what we're seeing in the engagement and the impressions. So it's not necessarily just sales. It's customer service. It's something that I talked about recently, a recent conversation I just had where, yeah, I can have a social media plan, and my plan is to go out and sell X amount of things, right? But from a trust perspective, being available to those people, if you are a company and I am responding to questions that could be answered 1, 2, 3 on social media as opposed to sitting on hold and waiting. It's a new form of customer service as well. And by having that, it's enabling your customers to feel very confident in the product that they're buying and assured that hey, we can get an answer right now. The biggest and baddest companies, baddest mean like cool companies that are working the social media thing correctly, may not exactly be in our industry, but take a look at companies like Pepsi, Coke, some of the small, even some of the lesser known brands. Man, if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, and this is what Infocom is talking about, the exceptional experience. This is not new. Infocom did not come up with this. Okay, don't take this the wrong way, Infocom, but a whole industry is after that exact same thing.
Yeah.
You go to a Burger King, you eat a burger, it's bad. You go on social media, you complain about it. Burger King is going to answer. That is.
At least they better.
Was that?
I said at least they better.
Well, they better. Well, of course. I mean, I've seen people go on and say, "This is my McMuffin." There's no muffin in this McMuffin.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're sending them, we're sorry, we apologize, let us know how we can make a difference. And that's the experience. Okay. This all ties back to a little thing that me, you, and George went to go see last year during Digital Signage Week. And it struck with me, and it's been a huge thing as far as social media, but it also helps understand signage is the only part of our industry that figured out this experience and interacting with social and how to make that work.
Yeah.
The retail space and the signage space have that down right, from the pumping the right sounds into a space, if it's music, if it's pumping smells into a space, because it's giving you that experience. Experience is more something above and beyond what we're used to as an industry, as integrators. I think it grows way bigger than.
And it actually goes back to, giving folks an experience as opposed to worrying about the ones and zeros, right? Yes, product numbers and serial numbers and MAC addresses are important. Resolutions are important, right? But is it more important than a CEO walking in and going, holy crap, this is a cool space, right? Yes, you to get there, you have to understand the resolution. You have to understand, is it HD? Is it 4K? Is it 6K? Is it 8K? Is it UHD? But he didn't care. She doesn't care when she walks in and everything just works, right? They care because it gives them an exceptional experience, to use the phrase Chris used. That's what they care about, right? Same thing with content. They care because it connects with them, right? They care because when they have a question, Jay's company's website comes up because they have a question about, what's better, 4K or 8K. And Jay's company's written a blog post and he's done his SEO right, and he comes up as a top search in his area. And that was completely free, Jay. I'm not charging you for that idea.
Thanks.
But but that's the thing is all kind of comes together, and we're seen as, again, Jay's point, we're seen as technologists, right? We're able to deliver people an exceptional experience because of our knowledge, but also because we understand how to get to the wow instead of just here's some fancy schmancy product names. So that
this is the way it is. I mean, the way it's becoming now is, you have paid endorsements. You can go out right now and hire somebody famous to do AVNation stuff at
Really?
InfoComm. It's great that you've got somebody. Well, we don't have the money to do that, so don't do that. We can go out and get a celebrity to interview people at the booths, right? But what does that do? That puts a guy with whitened teeth and fancy hair and a slick suit interviewing somebody, which is great. But what do they bring? What are they bringing to the table? I think that the new way of marketing is the regular guy, is the guy who's there, who has been in the trenches, who knows what's going on. That sort of endorsement is what's pushing not just our industry, but a lot of industry. It's the guy who spent, years slaving over, how to make this brick wall look better, and now he's a brick expert. And now he's at the places talking about how do you make these bricks prettier or better or stronger. And he brings a certain level of credibility. We are now entering the world of street cred. Man, street cred has finally hit corporate.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's what it's called, personal, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Tucker.
What do they say? They all say.
What?
Personal's personal.
Yep, personal. So next year, Tucker, we'll get Mark Messier and Brian Urlacher in our booth. I had to throw Messier in there for the Rangers fan. So, all right. And if you don't know who Brian Urlacher is, he's a famous linebacker that used to play for the Bears. So, all right, here we go. The Bears. Last story here, real quickly, guys, before we run out of time. Tips for choosing an event production company from our friends over at AV Magazine. Quote unquote, choosing the right company is arguably the single most important step you'll take when planning your event. Choose the wrong one, and you could run into all sorts of problems and money overages. I'm just going to throw that part in there. Susie Douglas from First Network shares her tips. Mr. Netta, we'll start with you, considering you help us make one of our biggest event that we do, which is the Tweet Up. How do you choose, a production company?
When you're doing these big events, I think George is going to be the go-to on this one more so than anybody else. So we're going to save him for last because he'll bring the pain and the real numbers, which will make us cry. Choosing the right production company is the right thing to do for a big staged event. For these small things, tips that you need to look for, what's driving our, all types of business right now is the content. You can have the prettiest display, and these guys in the production, side of the business can show you a 25,000 lumen laser projector that shoots fire out of its ears for all I care. But if the content that's not going up there is not coordinated correctly, this thing is just not, it's going to fall flat. We've been to events where the sound has killed the event because the whole time you're going, they did not bring the proper audio to it. It can completely ruin the event. That is such a no-brainer article in terms of for us being the spectator, and for a fact that we cannot sit in any seminar without staring at the projector, without looking at the speaker. Is that guy mic'd? What is there a conference level? How is that guy even talking? So you want to ruin your event? Go out and get Joe Trunkslammer to come and give you two Gemini speakers and a 32-inch tube TV on display.
All right, Jay, how do you choose an event company?
Well, I'm going to go with Chris on the thing. I mean, I think you've got to be, number one, we're very careful and very selective. And one of the things we always try to do, because we've done a little bit of some live events, but that's not our major business. We're an integrator, AV, and video conferencing. But we go for references. Who have you done this for before? And then we'll call those references and get the big thing to me, Tim, is the details, and that they handle those details, and that the quality of the work. And so those references, we vet out everybody basically that way, and somewhat on reputation and everything. But we try to do the old trust and verify kind of thing. But for our own use, that's the way we go about it. And then we'll get calls from customers and prospects that say, we have this going on. Who would you recommend? And so we're very careful about who we recommend. And going back to the whoever we recommend, it's somebody that has good references and a reputation. Not one or two events match the environment that that there's interest in. But we've been on kind of both sides of it. That's sort of my thoughts on it.
Get ready, Jay, because I'm about to ask you a question instead of Tim. We're going to put Tim on mute for a second. You are one of the few people of the panelists that are here that do present. So, what's bad when you're up there?
Well, in terms of the live event, what's bad?
Yeah, you're giving us. I'm looking for the from the perspective of the speaker who's up there.
Sure.
What would be something that you need as a presenter to make?
Yeah.
More of an impact. Does it help the technology?
And at the CI Summit about millennials and all that stuff. Yeah, I think this is pretty much like a lot of guys that do the public speaking. I mean, your audio has got to be. You can't have any breakup, and it has to be easily accessible. I don't need some kind of nice lavalier. Some clearance on the stage. And then, the other thing is confidence monitors. If you're going to go out there, public speaking, we're doing a speech or a presentation, to be able to read those effectively and not have to squint or something else, that's very plain vanilla stuff, but a quality audio and quality video in terms of the confidence monitors and clearance on the stage where I'm not having to hop around to do things, that's always worked well for me.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. George, what's your thoughts on this?
All right, so the guys make a great points. And the article goes through 5 factors that you need to really look at. It's experience, proof of experience, the quality of your staff, and the quality of your gear, and all that's related, right? The quality of your gear is directly related to the quality of your staff. You need to know that you've had the experience to do those things and that you are in that range of what's needed. Some of those smaller guys, they're good for what they do, and it's not to be sort of scoffed off just because a bigger boy is around. We do a lot of corporate work. We do a lot of work with $1 million shows, but that doesn't mean we're the right one all the time. What you need to look into is things like: is the crew maintaining their education, or are they just freelancers for them? Does the shop own the gear? Are they maintaining it correctly? That really does matter a lot. Do they know the halls? Have they sent someone to look there? That kind of stuff is really important. So your good staging or live events place is really more about what your expectations are, what your budget is, and what the quality of that work is. There's great people on all levels. Just have to make sure, just like you would go to a tattoo artist and make sure that their book is full of photographs of what they've done, you want to make sure that these guys have done what they're supposed to do. So when it all comes down to it, though, if you really are undecided, you just come to World Stage.
Hey, no, I have no problem with that. All right, so I just got a wonderful email from my internet service provider. Apparently, they're having outage issues all over St. Louis. So this has been a fun show to do up and down on the internet. So, guys, thank you so much for your patience and for helping me do this while I run with 2 squirrels and a gerbil. Mr. J, nice having you on, sir. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me on the show, Tim.
How can people find you?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, J Myers, Myers, at isitn.com is the email. And on the Twitter handle, it's at JB, like in boy, JB Myers. And that's how you can find me on Twitter.
All right, very good. Mr. Netto, sir, thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. Always good. Let's hurry up and get this done before your internet shuts off.
Tell me about it, brother. Go tell people how to find you.
You can find me at Chris_Netto. You can also find me on the website at avhelpdesk.com. That is the company I work for. You can find me at AVNation.tv. And you're not going to tell anybody else, so please follow Tim Albright, because he'll tell you at the end that he won't follow you. That's my new sign-off.
That's your new sign-off? All right. Mr. Tucker, take us home, sir.
You can find me at Tucker2s on almost every social media platform. I write for Commercial Integrator and for Higher Ed Tech, as well as some smaller imprints and AVNation TV.
All right, very good. Actually, Mr. Netto and I will be hanging out together in big old Boston, Massachusetts, 1st of August, so you can come check us out. It's called InfoComm on Campus in Boston, Massachusetts, co-located with Campus Technology. I'll put a link up on how to get to that if you're in the Massachusetts or the New England area. Chris and I will be talking about higher ed and classroom technology and where it's all going. So some of that's coming from a couple of sessions we did during Infocom, but also some new content that we're creating. So Neto's right. Don't follow me on the Twitters, but go by the website if you will, please. AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. You will find this very program and a host of others with a host of new hosts. Mr. Matt D. Scott has taken over AVWeek. That's every Monday. Bill O'Donnell, EdTech, and Steve Greenblatt is recording a new State of Control next week sometime. So check that out, what you would please. Also, the content that I mentioned at the very beginning having to do with the FCC as well as net neutrality and some weird, wonderful, how do I put the Rule 41, Tucker? Well, Bradford basically said, the government wants to look into your computer. Do you want to let them? So let's just put it that way and leave it there. It's on the website if you want to check it out, avnation.tv. Check that out. Tell our wonderful underwriters thanks for supporting us and helping us do what we do. So avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.